Yeah, I can see you. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Okay, our chair for Nairobi branch, presume Mr. Eric Theory should be present. He was to start off the meeting by the opening remarks. So without further ado, I wish to welcome Mr. Eric Theory to give his opening remarks so that we can start off the mentorship forum. Mr. Theory, please.
Hello, Julia. Mr. Theory is trying to join. So we could give him like, yes, we could give him like 2 minutes.
Okay. So as I said, our theme today, as we wait for Mr. Theory, is about financial management and charging of legal fees. And I already mentioned that we have 2 special guests. And this program is for the LSK Nairobi branch. The 2 guest speakers are Mr. Sheba Njagi and Kevin McCourt. I will introduce them before maybe they start addressing us.
Maybe we could just start by saying hello, everybody, since we're waiting for the chair. I hope we're going to have a fruitful participatory session rather than a lecture from me. So I'll try and keep my remarks brief and maybe we can get questions and answers. I think that will assist all of us. Thank you.
Yes, for all the participants, if you have any questions, as Mr. McCourt has said, this will be an interactive session. So if any of you, our guests and our audience have any question, I request you to forward the same at the chats. If you have any contribution to make, can give you chances to make your contributions. You can do your request at the chat section, or maybe you can raise a hand. Mr. Theory should now be. Okay, I've also noted that Miss Sheba is also not, has not yet arrived. Oh, she's here. Welcome, Miss Sheba, to this forum, Mentorship Forum. I'll introduce you once Mr. Eric Theory starts off.
Julia, I think we could start off the session and the chair will join as we proceed.
Okay. So the 2 guests, the first guest speaker who will be addressing us today is Ms. Sheba Njagi. Ms. Sheba Njagi is an associate at the International Coaching Federation. She's a certified coach who inspires and empowers people and businesses to create wealth and live abundantly through engaging coaching programs, trainings, and talks. She's the head of training, communications, and customer experience at Centonomy Limited. Sheba has been a trainer at Centonomy since 2015 and is a regular speaker and trainer at various workshops and events. Her key focus areas are entrepreneurship, personal financial management, and investment group financial management. Her passion is personal development and entrepreneurship, as well as ensuring that her sessions are interactive, practical, applicable, and empowering. Sheba is also an entrepreneur who has served on various boards such as Unthinkable Leaders and Founders Events, Events Managers Association of Kenya, that is MCA, Richard Investment Company. Due to her support of financial sustainable communities, she was awarded the IDIN Scholarship for the Global Social and Sustainable Enterprise Program by Colorado State University. She's also the founder of Go Forth World, a purpose-driven coaching firm that supports female entrepreneurs and leaders to achieve their goals as they make transformational changes in their businesses, careers, and life. So, Ms. Sheba, you can proceed. Welcome to the program again. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Just requesting to be enabled to share my screen. And they enable me to share screen. Fantastic, thank you. Great, welcome again everybody. What a pleasure being here with you. My name is Sheba Njagi from Centonomy. And at Centonomy, what we do is have conversations with you around how to create wealth through your personal finances and also through your business. So it's a pleasure being able to speak to lawyers, speak to advocates, speaking to members of this association on how we can, create wealth and grow even as we continue to work really hard. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll be able to share with you a couple of tips that you can continue applying if you've already started, and that you can also start applying if you haven't yet. And my theme today is don't just make money, build wealth with that money. And how we describe wealth is, or a wealthy lifestyle is really being able to afford your lifestyle above and beyond the basic essentials or the basic needs. And even at a time when you're not actively working, you're still able to sustain your lifestyle. So that's what wealth is all about, where, for all of us, we are working really hard at this point in our lives, meeting our clients, offering our services, or selling our products. But the truth is we don't want to be able to do this for the rest of our lives. We want to be able to build what we call a pot or a portfolio that will enable you to access it anytime you need it without even having to depend on others. So how do you really build wealth even as you actively make money now? It is very important for you to be intentional about the things you want to do. Be intentional about the kind of life you want to have when you're no longer working, or even when you're working right now. What kind of experiences do you want to experience? I was just having a session a little bit earlier, and my clients were describing to me this life where they were saying they want to be able to actively work and do the things they love without necessarily feeling like if they don't show up to the office tomorrow, they won't be able to put some food on their table even in a month's time. They want to be able to do what they love and not have to purely depend on it to be able to access, or to be able to live their lifestyles. So have you ever been in this situation where, and it happens a lot in the beginning of the year, where you're saving your money and you say, what, this year I want to be financially stable. I want to start my journey towards financial freedom. So I'm going to save. I'm going to put some money in a unit trust or something like that and and get started on this journey. And then January, you save your money. February, you even save some an extra amount, and March. By the time May is coming, you just find yourself dipping into that, saving spot. And the thing is, and so many of our clients at Centonomy have said they never understand why at certain times when they've already started saving, they never reach till the end of their goal. They always find themselves withdrawing the savings they had set up. And after a lot of research, what we have discovered is because if, saving without a clear goal, saving without a clear intention will cause you to go back and access your money at the end of it, or even before you have reached the ideal time. So the idea with your savings and also the idea with your investment is to be able to be intentional about the things you want to do with that money. When you decide you want to put some money in a money market fund, why do you want to save that money there? For what reason? For what purpose? So your savings and your investments have to be purpose driven. If there is no clear purpose for it, trust me, you're going to find yourself in a situation where you're dipping your fingers in there. So you need to be able to invest in something or save in something that you're very clear its purpose, and it helps you to even, you're even very clear on what kind of desired outcome you want to get. You are clear about what the outcome is and even the path to get there. And this is what we'll be talking about today. Building wealth means that it enables you to sustain your lifestyle. You know, like now, you know, the pandemic struck about a year ago or last year, and our country, even the rest of the world, you know, curfews all over the place, lockdown all over the place, and so many businesses had to be shut down. It's possible that even, you know, for some of us, maybe our income streams were affected. And many people found themselves in a situation where when work was taken away from them, when that business or that job was taken away from them, they barely had enough to survive, right? And that's why it's really important not to just make money, but also to invest it. Investing means you're buying assets that are growing, assets that are appreciating and are also generating an income for you. So that even when you're in a situation where you're not able to work, then you're not fully dependent, or then you're not left in a situation where you're not able to pay your daily needs or take care of yourself. You need some kind of income stream above and beyond your current job. You know, for many of you, there's a high probability that you're consultants and you often have clients. You need to also start investing in other options as well that will enable you to have an extra income stream, so that even when maybe the firm or your agency or your business is low, or your job is the clients are not as many as they are, you still have some income stream that you're able to also access. You know, it's also important not just to invest, but also to have significant savings that you can draw from and that will help you pull through even in tough times. At Autonomy, we say, and also across the board, we say from a personal financial management point of view, it's always important to have that emergency fund. And we say a minimum of 3 months emergency fund and a maximum of 6 months to 12 months, depending on what you decide. And it's an emergency fund that is 3 times how much you spend every month, your monthly lifestyle cost. So for example, if you find that your monthly lifestyle cost is 100,000 every month, that is your budget, it is important for you to be able to make sure you have a minimum of 300,000 shillings somewhere in an account, somewhere in a money market fund, somewhere in a good savings account that you can access in case an emergency comes up, in case loss of business or loss of revenue comes up. So for you to be able to build wealth, as you said, you need to have extra income stream, and you also need to start putting up or to have a significant savings for you to be able to access this. So how do you do this at this moment, even in this position that you're in? It's about time, and that's what even our next speaker will be talking about when we're talking about legal fees. It's important even as you run your business, even as you earn your salary or even your income, make sure you pay yourself first. It sounds easy, you know, but what usually happens, and research has shown, as soon as someone earns their salary or money comes in through their business, first thing they do is they first go and sort all the bills. You know, they pay rent, they pay for their utilities, they do so much, they pay bills generally, and they forget themselves. Today, we are saying it's time for you to change that narrative. As soon as you get your income from a deal that you have just done, from your income, from your salary, or even anywhere else, the first person you need to pay is to pay yourself. What does this mean? This means you're giving priority to yourself, you're giving priority to your future, you're giving priority to those things that you've said, to the outcome that you said you want to experience. This means you need to save and you need to invest. So you need to decide for yourself. As soon as my money comes in, 10% is going to go into my savings, 20% is going to go into my investments. And then after that, the rest now you can go and start paying the rest of the people who you need to pay via bills. So how do people pay themselves first? You can set up even a standing order. Immediately your income comes in, there's a standing order that has been set that goes to your account, yeah? And that becomes your savings or your investment account. Another important thing is going forward, make sure the same way you track spending for your business, you also track spending for your own monies. Especially in this time of the pandemic, where we need to make sure we protect our reserves as much as we can. It's important for you to track your finances and know where is the money going. You know, many people usually know the big ticket amounts. They know the rent, they know everything else. But how about the border? How about the courier service? Have you been able to map out how you're spending? And then when we're tracking your spending, what we usually say also is categorize your expenses into three, and I'll be talking about that. After you track your spending, it's important you start building assets or you start investing in various assets. And I'll show you how to select the various assets. What assets we'll be doing is they'll now be giving you the extra income that you need. So how do you stretch your money? And we've talked about this for a very, very long time. Understand your expenses and categorize these expenses clearly. You have the essentials, which are the A expenses. You have the B expenses, which are important, but you know what? You can adjust them depending on your situation. And you also have the C expenses, which is everything else. Everything else means, to be very honest, when you're stuck in a time like this, when you want to protect your reserves as much as you can literally stop spending on those things. So it's about time for you to sit down and look at your budget and see what needs to be categorized where, which needs to be put in what category. And this will enable you to stretch your money, to stretch your reserves, which is very important at such a time as this. So you will notice, like in this graphic that I'm sharing with you, if you spend all the expenses in these three jars, it means these are your normal expenses, and therefore your income or the money that you've already gotten does not get to stretch. But you can also look at it and say, you know what, because I don't know how things are going to go, we don't know how long these lockdown matters are going to last, I'm mainly going to spend on my A and B expenses. For the C expenses, I'm going to put them aside. I'm going to save that money and put it aside somewhere else that I can easily access in case of an emergency. This enables you to stretch your C expenses. For some people, depending on their situation, they're able to look at their category and say, you know what, and their situation. For example, households where you find that you've lost one income. You know, maybe you're married and one of you has lost a job, or you've had to experience a salary reduction. This is where now you take serious measures, where now you're able to say, for now, in this household, as we look at how things are going to go, we're going to fully focus on or fully spend on A expenses, you know, food, water, rent, electricity, utility, internet, because maybe we have to work from home. And B and C expenses, because you already know how much they are, you can even have conversations with people, with organizations, and say, you know what, let me set this aside for a rainy day. This enables you to stretch your money even longer. So if you're in a situation where your goal today is to stretch your finances, it's important for you to categorize in this way and to make the decision and to make that decision. For those of you who may want to invest, and maybe you're wondering, where can I actively invest my money? Maybe you realize, tick, I have my emergency fund, tick, I have my savings for a rainy day, tick, and I realize I have some money that I would want to invest. I'd like to share with you, I remember I talked about being purposeful and being driven by intention. Same thing with investments. Investments, you have to be driven by investment goals. There are 3 investment goals that you need to focus on or that you need to realize. The first one is for capital preservation. The second one is for income generation. And the second one is for capital growth. So if your investment goal is to preserve your capital, if your investment goal is to preserve the money that you have, then it means your investment objective is capital preservation. And therefore, that money, you need to put it in capital preservation investment options. Examples of capital preservation include fixed accounts, fixed deposits if they have a good interest for you, and also what we call unit trust in form of money market funds. Just to clarify, a money market fund is a high interest savings account. So it's a savings account. It helps you to preserve your money, and it gives you a slightly higher interest than a normal bank account. So if you have money that you know you will need within 12 months and below, right? You need to make sure that you invest in either money market fund or fixed accounts or savings account. So someone else can have some money and say, my goal for this money is to actually, I want this money to generate an income for me. So it means that then the objective for that money is income generation. So you need to make sure you invest this money in income generating options. Examples of income generating options include treasury bills, they include government bonds, they also include your own business. So what these options are giving, they're saying, invest in me, and I assure you, or I promise to give you a certain return. So you only put money in bills, bonds, and businesses if your goal is income generation. Property as well, especially if you already have existing property, maybe some apartment somewhere or a house somewhere, you're able to rent it out and generate an income. That's where these will fall. Finally, capital growth is for people who have an amount of money and they're saying, they're not even interested in getting this money anytime soon. They have a long-term view. So by the time someone is going to develop a property, for example, or buy land that they did not have, or invest in shares, or invest in cryptocurrency and things like that, it means you have a long-term goal. It means you're looking at these investments and maybe getting back to them in about 5 years and above. So if you know that you're ready to lock your money or let your money grow 5 years and above, then your objective is capital growth, and therefore you need to invest that money in capital growth investment options like the ones I've mentioned. So what I would like to say about today's session as I wrap up, ask yourself, what are your goals? Your goals are going to therefore inform you where to invest your money. Please remember, insurance is not an investment tool. Insurance is a protection tool. So you don't put money in insurance to invest it. No, you put money in insurance to protect it. Maybe you're protecting against a specific risk. So I'll give an example. If you taken car insurance, it means that you're protecting that car or yourself or your life against the risk of an accident. So it's the same thing when you take an educational policy. It's not an investment. It's a protection against risk of loss of jobs, loss of income, or even loss of life. So make sure every time you are purpose-driven, you're intentional-driven, always ask yourself, what's my intention with my money? And I only had 15 minutes and I think I have gone a little longer than this, but at Centonomy, we have a longer program that we're able to discuss this further and take you through it. And our goal is to remind you that you cannot delegate the process of investing. You have to be engaged in your investment process. Because to be honest, if your monthly lifestyle cost today is 100,000, in 10 years, it will be 400,000. If today is 50,000, in 10 years, it will be more than that. So you have to plan yourself in a way that you're not just focusing on today, you're focusing on the future, and you have to be intention driven. We are all working right now. When we work, we make money. That money, we spend it on expenditure, and we also save, and it also buys our assets. But we are also working in a way that we want to reach a point where even when we are not working, our assets are generating an income that will take care of expenses, income that will take care of our loans, and so on and so forth. This is where we want to be. And to be here, we need to be actively engaged in our process. And that's why, if you'd like to do a proper deep dive for these particular conversations we've had today, we have our 101 program for you. It's a whole 12-week program that starts in June, on June 1st. of this year, and you're welcome to learn how do you manage your money and also manage your debt. We'll go into all those aspects. You see, the way I've shared with you about bonds, about property, about shares. You'll have 3 hours, 2.5 hours each, breaking down each and every one of those investments, so that now you can learn how they work and learn how you can make them work for your money. And also you get to learn how to protect your money. Are you over invested in an educational policy, or too little insurance or too much? This is what we'll be talking about in our one-on-one program. Maureen at centonomy.com, and I believe she's here as well. And you're most welcome to have this so that we can have this conversation with you. And also, as you build your legal business, as you build your farm, as you build any other business you may have, we also have the Centonomy Entrepreneur for all entrepreneurs who are willing to grow their businesses to the next level. Here you get to learn about structuring and also the various digital strategies in your business. You get to learn how to raise and manage capital, and also the matters to do with accounting and tax. And of course, you as legal professionals, how can you protect your business as well? So it is a pleasure, and it was a pleasure being able to have these 15 minutes with you. Join us so that we can talk about this further, and let's get your money working. So before I leave, I've seen someone asking a very important question to me, Esther Cherobem. What are some of the money market funds that I would recommend for short term? So you're right. So all these companies like Britam, ICEA, CIC, even our banks, all these insurance companies, they have money market funds. So they usually, it falls under a product called unit trusts. So all I would want to tell you is how it works is the unit trust model. How it works is it's like a chama, where they get money from all of us, and depending on what we as investors have told them, they invest the money in the places we have told them. So if you hear of a unit trust, make sure you ask them, which types of unit trust do you have? Because now they will tell you, we have a money market fund, so forth. So the money market fund is an example of a unit trust that now you can put money for short term, for 12 months and below. Usually in this country at the moment, most of them from Britam, ICIC, they're giving about 7% to about 8.5%. So it's about you giving them a call and finding out, hi, so-and-so, do you have a money market fund? How does it work? And what rate are you offering me? So usually they give you between 7 to 8.5%. And you can find money market funds from all of these insurance companies, as well as your banks as well. So please don't tell them you want a unit trust. Tell them you want a money market fund. And also, if you want to invest in bonds, they also have a unit trust for bonds. So all you need to do is be very clear about what your investment goal is, so that you can make sure your money is put in the right place. Yeah. So any other questions? Thank you, Esther, for that very good question. So in case you'd like to discuss with us further about this, you'll find our details here. We also have Ruby at centonomy.com, who is also available for us. So I'm seeing Margaret Karibu Sana calling. I'm seeing Margaret asking how much is the entire course. So the entire course is 43,000 shillings with a registration fee of 1,500. So you're most welcome for you to be able to access. We also have a discount on the tuition fee. So if you have any questions, if you would like to receive the whole course outlined, please drop an email to Maureen at centonomy.com. This is for the personal financial management program. And for the entrepreneurship program, it is a 14-week course. If you would like to receive the whole course outline, also please contact Ruby at centonomy.com. I have written their emails there. Please reach out to them, have a good conversation with them, and we look forward to joining you or spending time with you in June, because you need to get your money working for you, not just you working for your money. Yeah? Thank you very much. If you have any other question, do let me know. Any other question? Yes, I'm seeing Ruby is here with us for the entrepreneur program. Feel free to sidebar her and have a conversation with her. Thank you very much. Thank you for your audience. Karibu sana, Karen. Over to you, Madam Chair.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Sheba, for sharing with us and for your presentation. As stated earlier, we have personnel from Centonomy who I will also give a few minutes to have a presentation with us also. As I had stated earlier, we had two guests today, and our second guest is Mr. McCourt, who I will proceed to introduce. My apologies, I had referred to him as Mr. Cairo McCourt. Sincere apologies, is Mr. Kevin McCourt. So Mr. McCourt is the founding partner of Cairo and McCourt Advocates. He started the firm in 1993 with the aim of offering a specialized, efficient, accountable, and reliable legal practice. Today, the firm still stands on the same principles under his leadership and represents companies, businesses, non-governmental organizations, individuals, parastatals, and various governmental departments. Mr. McCourt is a graduate of the University of North London and the Kenya School of Law. He was admitted as a barrister of Lincoln's Inns in 1985, as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya in November 1987. He worked as a legal advisor to the Governmental Charitable Interest Group in London, a legal intern at HR and Wilcock Advocates, and an associate advocate of Kimani, Cairo and McCourt Company Advocates before starting Cairo McCourt Advocates. He has further undergone professional training in human rights and sectoral studies focusing on Kenya's future policy reforms from International Commission of Jurists and from Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, ADR from California State University, and has also practiced at the Mombasa Law Society. He has vast experience in civil and criminal litigation, as well as arbitration. He has undertaken litigation in the Court of Appeal, High Court, subordinate courts, and other courts. I hereby welcome Mr. McCourt. Kindly share with us.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify something, the firm's leadership has been taken over by others much younger than me, who have led it to a higher level than I would ever have done. So I just start to clarify by that. Secondly, to my colleagues, we are here to talk about billing, but what you've just seen is a presentation by Sheba. And if you look at her presentation, do I need to say anything else? What she has done in that is told us what she's offering. She's given us a figure for registration, and she's also told you how much a course is. The whole thing was a pitch, which is good, but unfortunately for lawyers, our pitches are slightly different, because as far as I'm concerned, we're stuck with something that is archaic and hobbles us as a profession in terms of billing or earning revenues as advocates. And the thing that disturbs us or hobbles us is the Advocates Act and the Advocates Remuneration Order. My view is that we should be having a discussion on whether we wish to keep the Advocates Act or the Advocates Remuneration Order, and whether we ought to get rid of it or not, or to tweak or amend the current one. However, that is not what I've been told to talk about today. I'm to tell you about my personal experiences of billing. However, within that, I'm still stuck within the Advocates Act. And I don't want to waste a lot of your time, but as you well know, Part 9 of the Act, Section 44, gives the CJ, a non-member of our society, the power to prescribe the remuneration for both our contentious and non-contentious matters. There is where we start with a problem. We have a third party determining how we bill. Section 45 gives us some freedom to agree with clients in writing, signed by the client or an agent, on how we shall bill. This is the only real freedom we have to deal with clients in terms of a marketplace where we can bill what we might consider to be our worth. However, even that agreement is limited by Section 46 of the Act, where the client can complain about an agreement that they entered into and go to court to seek it to change it. Section 45 also restricts undercutting and champertus agreements. So whatever we do, we're in a very unfair and restrictive environment in terms of how we bill, because we're restricted by an act and then by remuneration order, which then goes into the nuts and bolts of each action that we take in terms of filing a suit, etc. I'm glad that we don't have to go through the remuneration order today, because I find it to be a very tedious process. And I'm sure you're also grateful that we don't have to do it. But I think it is totally outdated. And I think it is that what we need to discuss as a profession. What we need now to talk about is billing. How do you bill, as I say, in such a difficult environment? You're restricted by what you're allowed to charge. You can't undercut. You can't work on a result-based formula. So how do you go about attracting a client to yourself from another advocate and billing for yourself in such a way that what you have billed reflects in a justified way the work you've put in? For me, and this is what I think I've learned over a period of time, is that first of all, this skill is constantly learned, okay? You're constantly tweaking subject to each client that you get. Secondly, more and more importantly, I think is the key really is the speed in which you manage to sort out the matters or the cases before you from start to finish, so that there's a result for the client, good or bad. Now, I think what happens here is that we are not in charge of how quickly we finalize our matters to an extent. However, we've lost our skills of negotiating, settling, etc. Those are the keys, because if you can settle your matters faster, you have more capacity to take on fresh matters. And if you can take on fresh matters, you have more capacity to bill. Let me give you the example of what we've seen. And I mean, we've had this, you've seen it yourselves, I'm sure, in your practice. You've seen the advocate who has 100 files on his desk. And we'll all think that that advocate is very successful because he's got a lot of work. But if you look and say that each file, if we take, and I'm using a very low figure just for mathematical issues, if you take a 10,000 shillings per file, and you just take even 12 files, that's 120,000. You're talking, therefore, you've only got 10,000 per month. Now, we both know, or we all know, that with 10,000 per month, if you're running an office, I'm talking about people who are running offices here, it is not sufficient per file, 10,000. To run your office. You're going, the office itself, it's ravenous. The minute any income comes in, the office is paying. You're paying electricity, you're paying salaries, you're paying rent, you're paying internet. So holding on to a lot of files and having a fixed amount of money will not help you, because you might find that of those files, you're only earning 2,000 shillings a month. So the argument I'm making is, if you can quickly turn over your files and get a healthy deposit on a file that you quickly turn over within 3 months. So if you do 100,000 on each file and you turn it over within 3 months, and you assume that you're spending 20,000 per month on other expenses of the office, you will be making hopefully a profit of 40,000. but that is only on one file over 3 months. Therefore, you have to have capacity to have more than 10 files to make 400,000. Now, this is where the problems start coming, because what we tend to do as advocates, we tend to get lots of files, but we haven't actually identified how to build the file. So when we look at that, you've got to look at the data of what is happening. If you're dealing with, say, running down, for example, how quickly can you turn over a file between a particular court? Will it take 3 months? Will it take 4 months? Will you be able to convince your colleague that maybe we should settle this within 2 months? These are the issues that I think we need to seriously think about. Deposit on fees, yes, it's a good idea. However, the problem is any money we get, the minute we receive money, it's reducing in value from the moment it is paid. Because as I said, you're going to be spending on administrative costs, you're going to be spending on maybe lifestyle that is changing. And in reality, the money that you receive then and the money that, if it takes you 2 years to finish a matter, that money has not actually, that revenue is not actually worth it, to be honest. So you've got to think, how do you do this? My view, you need a pipeline. And when I say a pipeline, I'm talking about having a revenue stream of files. So you have files that are coming in, some fresh or brand new, some that are, say, halfway done, and some that are coming to an end. And you've got to stagger them. And they have to be staggered in such a way that all the revenue from the ones that have the ones that are finalizing, not all the revenue has been taken up front, but maybe has been staggered throughout the period so that there's still revenue coming in as you finalize it. The ones that are in midstream, there's still money or revenues to be earned from it as it comes to finalization. And there's been some money taken up front that may have helped with your administrative costs. And then the new matters that are coming in, you're questioning and billing them in the same manner, so that basically you have this revenue stream that is constantly flowing through the firm. In that way, you will find that maybe you're not having large sums of money, but your firm is actually turning over. Most firms will go onto overdrafts for purposes of containing their costs. I find that slightly dangerous, especially as we've seen different times, like now, the COVID issue. If you've got large overdrafts, you're in problems because you're not getting the revenue. So you can actually structure a firm to run on the pipeline. However, it takes time to build the pipeline, and it takes some experience, and in each firm is different, and each firm, the experience is different. It takes time and a bit of experience to get the pipeline flowing and ensuring that it's maintained constantly. And it is a work that is needed to be done constantly. You can't just say once you've created the pipeline, that's fine. You must monitor it constantly and ensure that the work is coming in and the work is going out. And the key, again, as I said, is getting things done. I think most of us would agree that when you have an issue or something outside of the profession, when you go to a professional, you want the professional to give you a solution, a result. So if somebody keeps you going, doesn't solve your problem for a long period, you get frustrated. So the same thing with our clients. They want their work done expeditiously, and they want a result, good or bad. Okay, and remember, for us, as lawyers always say, you've never lost a case in your life. I don't think any lawyer's lost a case. It's always your client that loses the case. So the point is, even if you lose it, you still have an opportunity to do appeals, etc., which is another form of revenue. As Sheba showed you immediately, and I'm talking about deposit, she was already asking you for a registration fee. I'm sure if you asked her what is the purpose of the registration fee, she will tell you probably it's for the administrative costs of keeping you guys, getting you guys online, etc. That is the only thing I can see, but she's got already, by the time you even think about joining, you've already paid some money to her. Now, that is where we fail. We have meetings with clients, we give free advice, we open files. A lot of us don't know how to bill on this, whether we should ask for money up front. When you go to the doctor's always asking you for a fee for being seen. We don't complain about that, but people complain about seeing a lawyer and being told to pay 500 bucks to open a file or 1,500 for a consultation. People complain. I think we need to change the perception of lawyers also, that we are in need of obtaining these figures, these fees, because people are taking us also for granted. Then I would look and say, and again, I'm talking about advocates generally, if you're running your own firm, or even if you're an employee, the rule we were taught when we started practice, and I'm sure we didn't learn much in terms of from school or anything about how to build. What we were taught was basically this: you've got the 1/3 rule. Whatever you bill, you've got to think 1/3 is for administrative costs, 1/3 is for your salary, and 1/3 is for profit. So irrespective of whether you're the owner of the firm or not, that rule can still apply. So if you're looking at a fee, you've got to look at it and say, how do I ensure that the 1/3? So what are my costs? How much is my 1/3 of costs for this particular file? How much is my salary? What is the 1/3 there? And then what is the profit? Because most of us believe that lawyers at the end of the year sit down with a pot of gold and that there's a lot of money to be shared. I don't think that is the correct position. I actually think most lawyers struggle throughout the year. Where they're successful, they manage to pay themselves and pay off their debts. And at the end of the year, if they're lucky, there's a little bit of money, or what we would call a bonus, for the effort that they've put in, whether they are partners, whether they're employees, or even whether they're working in a large corporate organization. I have, and I will talk about things like retainers. I've used retainers both hourly and monthly for all sorts of clients, okay? I don't want to say international and local, but all sorts of clients. My experience has been that with a retainer, unless you're very careful about how you set the retainer, you tend to be the loser. You will find that we don't have the ability to record our service. So whatever you do with a retainer, you must have the ability to constantly record whatever you're doing, whether it's a 2-minute telephone call, whether it's a 1-minute review of a document. Most of us don't have it. So to have that, you have to have a system. And for that system, you have to spend quite a bit of money to ensure that the system's up and running. And then you have to implement that IT system. When you do that, modern IT system to capture this data is very useful. In fact, it's key. But it also brings in other things. You've got other administrative costs that will come with such an IT system. So when you're doing the retainer, you must have constant control over what you are doing and recording of what you have done, because at the end of the day, you still have to account to the client how you've come up with this figure and for what. And for that, your data is really important. Data, as another point, is very important for taxations, which I was asked to talk about. But when I was looking at the taxations, I was thinking, really, taxations are when you failed in everything, and now we're before a third party, the court, and we're seeking orders for monies that we will take a long time to obtain, and still you can't trust the court proceedings to set out everything. So you're putting in your data, and then you're going to be questioned on that data as to proof of how many telephone calls you did, how many meetings you did, etc. I think for me, the experience that I've had is that we live in a difficult environment. And the difficulty of our environment is set up, as I've said previously. But more importantly, we need to be able, as lawyers, to look at clients Today, we have a variety of clients. Some cannot afford the services being offered through the remuneration order. So that means a lot of people are already they're not lawyered up, okay? Then you have others who will come within it, but they will always be arguing over the amounts, and you're stuck. As a result, what I would be saying is that we need to look and say, can we find a better structure as we move forward, so that if we're increasing in size in terms of of advocates, that we can find advocates getting their own niches in the market to create their own clientele, which is clearly out there, but is limited by an act that is out of, or an order that is out of date, as far as I'm concerned. I think I would like to stop there unless anybody wants me to add anything else.
So thank you very much, Mr. McCourt, for your presentation and sharing with us. As I had stated earlier to the participants who have just come in, our topic today is financial management and charging of legal fees. So we started off with our first guest, who was Ms. Sheba Njagi, who is a personnel at Centonomy and also an expert in financial management and issuing of advice in financial management. We also heard from Mr. McCourt, who have just concluded his presentation. I had stated earlier to the participants that if any one of you wish to have a question answered or wish to contribute to this conversation, you can do so at the comment section. If any one of you wishes to air their views, they can also raise their hand. I'll give them that opportunity. We were supposed to finish off at around 3:30 with the closing remarks of our chair, Mr. Eric Theuri, who I can now see is in the meeting. So I'll give this opportunity to Mr. Eric Theuri, maybe to give us a word or two, a brief word or two, as I also look at the questions which have, Mr. McCourt maybe wishes to say something.
Sorry, I'm just seeing some questions.
Yes.
And I think one is from Florence, and she's asking about tax obligations that might arise. Florence, I tell you, the biggest difficulty is the tax. And the best way I've dealt with it is to get highly qualified professionals to guide me. But more importantly, Florence, and I'll say this here, I've had the great advantage of having young partners with me who are more adept and knowledgeable and think about these issues in a greater way than I do, and actually lead me and help me to deal with these issues. But from day one of my practice, the tax has been a problem, and it will always be a problem, because we are perceived to be extremely wealthy. And now we have also got the issues of people trying to find out which monies we hold, and we're now actually investigating whether how money laundering is taking place. We are under attack, guys, and we need help, and we've got to look after one another. So Florence, I'm not sure if that has answered your question, but I totally agree. It's a great question. I can share more with you, and I'm much willing to share. The other question I see, how would one recommend one deals with undercutting? You see, this is where we're not being honest with ourselves. Undercutting is real. Everybody's undercutting. That's, unfortunately, I say that, but that's the truth of the practice, because people can't afford, or not that. Let me put it another way. We say we're in a capitalist market where market forces will determine price. Yes, that is our system here. However, we are run by another system, the remuneration order, which prevents you from now agreeing fees. So as a result, you have a problem. So the only way to deal with undercutting, as far as I'm concerned, is to get rid of the remuneration order and tell you, yes, fine, people, if you want to undercut, you pay. Everybody pays for what they can afford. and then we see what happens. Sorry.
There's also a question here, Mr. McCourt, from Teddy Kegode.
Yes.
Who states, for young advocates trying to establish a clientele, how do you do that billing while trying to develop a sustainable income with the assumption that most clients you get are referrals and not well-to-do persons? Maybe we can answer that.
You know, I agree with Teddy. His problem is massive. And when we started, we had the same problem. We also had referrals, and we also had not well-to-do persons. What we did with most of them, I'm talking, I'm sorry, Teddy, I don't want to sound old, but maybe I am, but I'm just saying, what we did, Teddy, is we dealt with them individually. Now, what I would do in that situation, if we have to get around the Advocates Act, you get a Section 45, you get an agreement with them, you get it in writing, and you tell them, guys, this is what we'll bill you for each stage. So you break the file down into stages. So you can say for the pleading, so much. Get them in to put it in writing. For this, so much. Then now you start hopefully establishing a clientele. To establish the clientele, Teddy, to be honest, you're only going to do that if you produce results. Now, I'm not talking results that are ethically incorrect, okay? I'm talking about getting a file sorted out. Whether that means you're in court arguing it and you're always on time, your submissions are there, you've got hearing dates, or you're sitting with your colleague and agreeing with them, this is how we can settle this because this is a negotiated settlement. Most of these matters end up, nobody's going to win. Everybody's going to lose a bit and everybody's going to win a bit. So if you can find the win-win for everybody, you get a client that is satisfied, you will now end up being the client who's sending people to you. You will have referrals. We've talked about advertising. We've changed the law. How many advocates are advertising? You can't advertise because the costs. So I don't know if that helps you, Teddy. Wangila, hi. How do you manage the market situation? The market situation is horrific for us right now as lawyers, right? We are very fortunate that we have managed to go virtual. I think that has helped us. But with a small income, what you've got to do is keep your costs down. So the argument, and I've been laughing at myself because the argument has always been for us lawyers, what our offices look like, how great our offices are, etc. I'm not saying I have a great office either. All I will tell you is this. Because of the virtual situation, we no longer we're thinking about what size the office is. If you have good internet and a good laptop and the ability to ensure that you're in court on time if you're doing it physically or even virtually, that you are prepared, I think you can maintain a smaller income. Whatever the income is, you can reduce it, or as I think Sheba was saying, you keep it within, is it the A category that she was talking about. Corporates have been forcing us to accept fees way below. Yeah, I am totally with you, Kisuki. That has been one of the standard jokes of the profession. Yeah, I think we just need to deal with the remuneration order. Then we'll be able to deal with everybody. I hope that's sufficient. Chair, Madam Chair, I hope I can leave you in peace.
Yes, just before you go, Ms. Wangari Wangoi is requesting you kindly share your email for follow-up queries. I don't know whether that is directed to you.
I will share it with Wangari, yes.
Okay, other participants are also saying thank you. Thank you for your great presentation. That is from Onenga and Imran.
May I thank them for their patience in listening to me. I'm sure it was not a pleasant experience on this time of the day, but thank you for having me and thank you for listening to me. And as I said, we're all in this together. We need to work together. Maybe we should find ways of telling our respective leaders in the LSK that these are issues that we need to deal with, and we need to deal with the remuneration order. Thank you.
Asante sana, Mr. McCourt. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
and
Madam.
we will invite you again so that you can give us more insights about the topic. Asante sana. So, Mr. Chair, I'll give you 2 minutes to maybe give us a closing remark. If Mr. Chair is not present,
I'm present, Julia. Thank you, Julia. I hope that Senior Cairo is still on the call. I want to extend my and the council's gratitude for agreeing to talk to us today on this mentorship series on the question of billing. We always joke that billing is the only thing that we were not taught in law school. We were all taught where to get the law, but when it comes to billing, no one ever teaches you how to get paid. And we all realize that the most difficult part of this practice is getting paid. And so the tips that you have shared in terms of what you have accumulated throughout your career are appreciated. And thank you for that. For all our participants, we hope that this is an engagement that has been of value to you. As my senior has said, this is perhaps a discussion we need to have and actually really interrogate whether we need to have the remuneration order or not. That is something that perhaps is a discussion for now. I liked the part of going the route of Section 54 and making the remuneration agreements. They do help quite a lot, especially in regard to criminal cases where it becomes very difficult to even have a scale that can guide you. And most of the time you charge per attendance, and you find that it can get you into trouble with clients, because if you don't have a clearly defined payment structure, that can become a challenge. I also want to thank Centonomy for the discussion that they've had on financial management. Of course, we appreciate that we are going through a very difficult period in the legal profession. Getting fees out of clients is becoming an extreme sport, so to speak. And so the little that you make has to be managed prudently. And so we were we also thank Centonomy for that. And we hope that we can be able to develop a partnership that can impart greater skills on financial management to the lawyers, so that they can also diversify their revenue streams and not just to depend on the legal practice as it is. So we are quite grateful, and we hope that some of our members would also look you up and take on some of the very, very exciting and courses that you do have on financial management, and of course even the higher level of billing as a consultant, because you have such exciting training opportunities. So Julia, I don't have much to say other than that. And just also thank you and then the team that is handling the Young Lawyers Mentorship Forum. I hope that from the members who have attended today, we can also get, you can do this in the chat. You can tell us some of the areas in which you probably would just want somebody to come and share their experiences. What we are realizing is that we cannot offer the proper mentorship of one-to-one to each and every individual, although that is ongoing. And if anyone is interested, they could get in touch with the Nairobi branch secretariat and see if we can be able to get them a mentor. That is ongoing, but we'll be having this monthly mentorship series so that we can be able to tap on the experiences, on the mistakes that those who have been there before us have made and learned from, so that we do not have to make the same mistakes as we practice, because the only thing that changes in this practice is time. Otherwise, most of the things just remain the same. So if you have any areas which you feel like you would want the branch to try and see if we can get practitioners who have experience in that area, so that we can also look into that and try and then help you as you grow your practice. So Julia, I'll give it back to you so that you can finalize the last parts. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eric, for that. So we were to finish our forum at 3:30. We still have 20 more minutes. Kindly, the participants, if you could indulge us to at least have one person from Centonomy who wants to share with us. I don't know whether it's Namwaka Radoli. I want to give him 5 minutes to share with us about Centonomy.
All right, thank you very much, Julia. My name is Maureen Namwaka Radoli. I work at Centonomy as the head of personal financial management program. And what we look at is just what Sheba said, that our aim is to ensure that people are creating whatever sector they're in, whether you're in employment or you're running businesses. The idea is you being able to accumulate enough wealth so that it gets to a point where you don't really necessarily have to work. Yeah. So I know she talked extensively regarding investment and how you should start thinking of having an emergency fund to cushion you when times are really hard. Just coming up with a very good financial goal to ensure that you have plans in place to meet that as well. And and there are very simple things that we look at. Just how do you track your spending? Do you have a budget? The personal financial management program that we have at Centonomy is a 12-week program that will run you where you're expected to attend class once a week, half hours. We have 4 optional days where you get to choose to attend class this Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those are even 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The class that runs on Saturday from 9. So what happens during this class the classes are virtual. Ever since COVID began, we decided to move virtually quickly. Then the class begins on the 1st of June and the total fees is 40,500. I heard what the chairman said, that we need to think of a partnership where we have a win-win situation. And of course, we'll go back and just think about that. We also recently introduced a short course, but people are busy. Some people do want a very long course, and that begins on the 7th of May, and it will be running every Friday from 7th of May to the 21st of May, and the cost is 10,000 shillings. So getting to understand the fundamentals of money management. And you realize that our program, we don't move or shift to investments, because the idea is you changing your habits, changing your mindset. Once you're able to tackle that, it is very easy for you to start investing. The first 4 modules, of course, look at how do you manage the money that comes in. Number 2, we look at time value of money. How do you start achieving those goals, putting in mind that time has an effect has an effect on your money, particularly inflation. So how do you now start looking at those big goals and breaking them down into smaller goals. That we handle at the second module. Then we look at debt management, how you can make use of debt to grow your assets, and how again you can start repaying off debt if you're already in debt. Then we look at living abundantly. Now that's a module that helps you now start thinking outside the box. Apart from the practice that you're carrying out right now, what other sources of income can I also start thinking of, and how do I even go and start looking at them in terms of achieving my financial goals? Then from there, now that's when we go to investment. We look at investments in terms of property. We look at equities, and then we look at treasury bills and bonds and the stock market as well. Then from there, we look at now, how do you start protecting your wealth? And then we look at insurance, estate planning. I know some of you are most of you are very familiar with that. And then from there, we look at, we help you create a 5-year financial plan. So by the time you're done with Centonomy, we have already worked on your mindset. We already know how you manage your money. We are talking about both irregular and regular expenses. So this is all covered. So you're not looking at somebody who's expecting a certain amount of money or a static figure at the end of every month. So we'll cover all these areas. So that is it about financial literacy. And as I had said, we look at every area, including entrepreneurship. And I know most of you have your own practices. And I think one of the modules that you should seriously, or programs you should seriously think about, apart from money management, is the entrepreneurship program. And I know my colleague Ruby is here. If she can quickly take us through the entrepreneurship program. And I know some of the, because people move from entrepreneurship and they come back to do either personal finance or vice versa. And some of the testimonials I've gotten from people who are moving from entrepreneurship to personal finance is some of them had to go back to the drawing board. They had to fire everybody and just look at, is this really what I wanted? So for them to have done that, there are things that they're taken through that makes them understand their vision clearly. Look at the opportunities within the business again, because you might have a business that can even give you so much more, but because probably you did not look at a certain angle of that business, you miss out on that. So if Ruby is in the house, if you'd allow me, Madam Chair, if she can just unmute her mic and just take us through the entrepreneurship program, then that will be okay. Otherwise, thank you so much for this opportunity. And we are really excited to have shared that information with you. Anytime you have such forums, we are excited just to come and share, because the idea, apart from just taking people through the program, we share a lot of content. And if you're able to transform as many minds as possible, that is our joy. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Radoli. We will give Ruby 2 minutes so that we can now wind up the meeting. So if Ruby, you can share with us within 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Julia. Hello, everybody. Unfortunately, I'm not able to turn on my video, but my name is Ruby Njonjo, and I head the entrepreneurship program at Centonomy. And so I have 2 minutes, so I'll just really quickly summarize. So I'll start by saying, so as in the entrepreneur field, basically what we do is just really break down how you're able to run your businesses, how you're able to cost, for example, for lawyers, and you're running your own practice and you'd like to cost clients, what are the costs that you factor in? How do you look at the taxes? I remember somebody mentioned that taxes has been quite a thing that you've been struggling to deal with. So we have a whole module that speaks into tax. We also deal with, how to properly reach your clients, how to understand really your proper client base, and select based on the niche that you're working on as a business. We also speak into how do you make money as the entrepreneur? How do you make money as the owner of the business? And just as we're speaking on that, we have a very interesting webinar that's coming up on the 24th. That's just 3,500, where we are going to just be talking about how do you make money in your business? So how are you able to calculate what your billable hours are? How are you able to factor in all the operational costs that you need? Are you paying yourself as the entrepreneur? And what are the 3 different ways that you can make money out of your business? So in terms of the long-term entrepreneur course, it's a 14-week course where, again, as Maureen had mentioned, you just attend class once a week for 3 hours. And it's online based off the COVID-19 pandemic. And currently our fees are 53,100 for the entire 14 weeks, but we accept payment in terms of monthly payments or monthly installments, or even a Lipa Pole Pole platform that we have. So just so that I don't take any more of your time, should you have any questions or any concerns, or you'd like to just reach me and find out more about the conversations that we have for entrepreneurs, please feel free to email me at ruby@Centonomy. I'll just put my email again on the chat, or a phone number that you can reach me. Thank you very much to everybody and have a good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you to all participants. If you wish to contact Centonomy, they had shared their email addresses at the chat section. So I wish to end this forum by thanking all the participants and the special guest that we had today, Mr. McCourt, Ms. Sheba Njagi, for your insights. And I wish to inform the participants that if you wish to be participating in most of our forums, you can be checking out at our website at the Nairobi branch. You can also consider to subscribe as a member at the Nairobi branch, so that you can be getting first-hand information about our forums. Subscribing to the Nairobi branch is 1,500 only, so you're most welcome. If we don't have any other person who wishes to address us, then I wish to conclude by saying, God bless you, have a good evening.